championship, as I believe during winter time, has gone the way that McLaren is dominating it for the moment, quite big actually, which comes due to the reason of having certainly a very good car, but working at the moment with the tyre company Bridgestone together, which does a very good job. We saw that last year, but it wasn't that clear, and now it is very clear. And that's where we're struggling most, but not just there, as I said, it's the car as well, which we have to improve. Therefore, we're quite happy actually to be just about 6 points off in the championship, so everything is open, and I hope if we can improve the car and the tyre, we should be there by the end.
Welcome to Barcelona and Fox Sports Net coverage of Formula One racing. This beautiful city has a rich and long history in Formula One. The first Grand Prix was run here in 1913 and won by Rolls-Royce. There have been 43 races in all, 28 of them counting for the World Championship, including today's Grand Prix of Spain, round 5 in this year's Formula One Championship. Since 1968, when Graham Hill visited Victory Lane, this has been a part of the official FIA Formula One Championship. Barcelona, located in the eastern corner of the country of Spain within the province of Catalonia, which gives the circuit its name. This season's been dominated by McLaren Mercedes. Mika Hakkinen jumped out with 2 quick victories before Michael Schumacher broke through in Argentina 2 weeks ago. At Imola, David Coulthard went wire to wire for his first victory of 1998. Joining me, 5-time winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Derek Bell, former Formula One driver, and Peter Windsor of F1 Racing Magazine. 2 weeks ago, another McLaren Mercedes show, Derek, but this time it was David Coulthard who wired it. When we were in San Marino, the Ferrari fans were out in force, hoping Michael Schumacher could break through that wall of silver arrows at the front of the field.
But there was no way. Mika Hakkinen just blocked him out, allowing David Coulthard to gradually pull away. And this is really the story of the race, pulling away all the time. They're pulling away here. Michael, having a look down the inside, can't do anything about it. But poor old Barrichello's previously lost his wing, did not realize it, flew off. Johnny Herbert has a suspension failure, home he goes, and then Mika Hakkinen has a bearing failure in the gearbox, which in fact was found to be a counterfeit part. However, then we lose Wirtz. His engine blows up when he's already a lap behind. Coulthard went on to score a magnificent victory nonetheless.
More trouble. Nakano's Minardi goes up in flames. Olivier Panis loses an engine. A lot of attrition in San Marino, but David Coulthard scores his first victory of the season and leaves the championship wide open. Hakkinen's retirement and Coulthard's victory brings Coulthard within 3 points of his McLaren teammate, and Schumacher, finishing second, closes to within 6 points of the lead, ahead of Eddie Irvine and Heitz Harold Frentzen, the top 5 in the Drivers' Championship. The constructor points nowhere near as close. McLaren Mercedes 49, Ferrari 18 back, Williams, Benetton, and Sauber. This racetrack at Catalonia is used by the teams for pre- and mid-season testing. So, Peter Windsor, this is likely going to be the best prepared for Grand Prix of the entire season.
Yes, that's right. I think we should call it the technical Grand Prix, really, because it's a very technical race now. There's been so much testing here in Barcelona that the race is almost incidental to the whole thing. There's been days and weeks of testing from both Bridgestone and Goodyear, and not surprisingly, the grid looks very like the test results. McLaren brilliantly quick, Schumacher right out there putting in a great lap. But it's technical for other reasons as well. Schumacher's got new, or both Ferraris have got new upswept exhaust, giving them a lot more traction at the rear. And we've got none of the X-wings and winglets on the cars, which I think is a great improvement. I don't know what you guys think. It looks like a McLaren domination today. Schumacher's going to give it everything he's got, and let's sit back and watch.
Well, the race from third on back, though, should be quite exciting today. Well, Jordan with a longer chassis, Williams and Benetton with suspension revisions. A lot of teams have made changes just for this race. However, one team is virtually rebuilt and brand new for this season. That's the Arrows team, Derek.
Well, I've always had the greatest admiration for Tom Walkinshaw. He's very, very competitive man indeed, and always comes up with the goods. Surrounds himself with excellent engineers. In this particular case, he's got John Barnard. But maybe he's designed too much of a high-tech car. Maybe it's too clever for them. He's got two wonderful drivers. Mika Salo and Pedro Diniz doing a great job, but they've only had one finish this year so far. But then maybe the engine is the problem. They're building their own engines. They've got a designer and builder from Cosworth, who's now come in doing a great job, but nonetheless they're not getting the results. Also, this carbon fiber gearbox. But it seems that maybe the materials, the parts of the gearbox, the steel parts, and of course the carbon fiber shell are not being compatible, and they're having lots and lots of problems. Anyway, it's a long season to go, and let's just hope that Arrows can get it together by the mid-season, and let's just see what happens to them.
Mika Salo's 9th place finish at San Marino is the first finish for Arrows of the entire season. Now, they did not test here at Catalunya in the last 2 weeks. They were back at the shop working on those gearbox woes. And Peter, they've really taken on a heavy load at Arrows this year.
That's right, Mike. A lot of changes at Arrows this year. Color scheme, obviously, wonderful shade of black, but great technology, doing their own engines, and John Barnard's designed a wonderful car. Tom, however, it has been quite a difficult start to the year.
Yeah, we've, the new car, new engine, and new gearbox. So, yeah, it's been a lot of hard work, but I think we're starting to get on top of it now, and I think the benefits will show up in the second half of the season.
There have been a lot of historic firsts here at the Grand Prix of Spain. Fangio clinched his first championship here. Frank Williams' first Formula One as an entrant in '69. March, Tyrrell scored their first constructors wins. Niki Lauda, Jochen Mass, their first wins as driver. And in 1975, the first woman driver to score Formula One points, Lella Lombardi, a 6th place finish in a March 4. Welcome back. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor. A lot of speculation about Giancarlo Fisichella, who answered his critics, Peter, by out-qualifying Alexander Wurz here in Spain.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, a difficult start to the year for Giancarlo Fisichella at Benetton, but looking good here in Spain. Giancarlo, you had a very unlucky run of accidents. How do you get over that? How do you get into the...
Ville has a wheel with about 20 buttons to control climate control in the stereo. My Ford Explorer's got about 6 buttons on it, but that's nothing compared to a Formula One steering wheel. Peter, show us more.
Okay, yeah, thanks, guys. In Imola, we saw the gear change and the clutch layout. Now let's look at the front of Michael Schumacher's wheel. A lot of things to play with here. Neutral button on the left, speed limiter on the right. That limits the speed at which he comes into the pit lane for qualifying and the race. Radio button, little stopwatch here. They can stop and start for practice and for the race. And lots of knobs down here. These control various engine parameters, fuel mixtures, mapping of the engine, and a very, very secret little knob down here. Black one. This is set to program remedies for problems that might occur to the car in the race. Clutch, gear change, things like that. They can say, Michael, black button, position 3, and hopefully it might solve a gear change problem that he's got. LED display, speed, interval times, and the engine parameters. A lot to play with. The question is, Derek, if you'd had this when you were driving for Ferrari, what difference would that have made to your career?
I reckon I needed about 4 of those to make the Ferrari I drove go well.
Well, I want to know where the secret turbo boost button is.
Yeah, well,
every video game has that.
Well, they might well have one.
Gotta be somewhere. Among the new innovations this week, new exhaust for Ferrari. It's an aircraft-style exhaust outlet flush with the bodywork below the rear wing ahead of the axle line. There's a concern that it may cause a heat problem for fueling, so an extra crewman will be added to shield it from the refueling process.
And Niki Lauda, please stay with us for more action from...
Hakkinen went out and very quickly on his first lap, Derek, sent notice he'd be the man to beat.
Yeah, the whole way through he dominated. At one point he was over a second quicker. In fact, could have parked it straight away. David Coulthard went out and tried to do something about it. We could only get within 7/10 of Mika right at the bitter end. David really pushing very, very hard, and of course Ron Dennis looking a little bit pensive, but no doubt confident.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher was watching there as the Benettons had displaced him from the second row. Wurz, and here Fisichella showing waving to somebody who wouldn't move over.
Michael Schumacher did another one of his scintillating laps. It was brilliant to watch, hands crossing from one side to the other as he slid in through the corners.
Schumacher's Ferrari being readied for today's event. Jacques Villeneuve in the last lap of qualifying went off, had a nasty crash, and in fact really got a sore neck.
There I think is King Juan Carlos of Spain walking through the paddock, being taken through by Pedro de la Rosa, who happens to be one of the top young Spanish drivers.
He visited each of the garages, spoke with the teams, and there Bernie Ecclestone helps him into the safety car for a lap of the circuit. On hand for today's event, Schumacher just 3 more points back combined with their 1-2 finish. So Peter Coulthard's win and Mika's retirement at Imola has really tightened up the points chase.
That's right, guys. The essence of the Formula 1 World Championship was perfectly encapsulated by David Coulthard's last 2 races, up and then down in Argentina, and then a brilliant win in Imola.
Yeah, it just shows the nature of Formula 1. You can be up one weekend and look untouchable, and then you come to the next Grand Prix and you're scratching your head as to where you have to try and find the time. And certainly that's been the case for me, trying to close the gap to Mika in the Barcelona Grand Prix.
In terms of the championship, does winning your first race of the year change your perspective?
Well, it helps a lot to just clear a lot of the questions, because it's such a fickle business that people were questioning whether I was capable of winning already after 3 races. So it was great to go to Imola, get pole position, win the race, and say, right, there you go, I can do it. And then come straight on to Spain and have a perfect weekend with the same car. Well, yeah, unfortunately, well, it's the same car, but different track conditions, and all those factors make for a different Grand Prix. The Spanish Grand Prix, critical 5th round of a much bigger picture.
Derek, Catalunya is the 5th circuit to be used for the Spanish Grand Prix, and it's the circuit, as we said, where all the teams do their preseason and mid-season testing.
949 miles. It's a very smooth circuit, yet in fact has a lot of abrasiveness actually in the surface itself. There's a certain amount of washboard effect in some of the corners, but it's very, very fast coming down the straight. 190 miles an hour. They brake very, very severely, pulling nearly 4G as they turn into the Elf chicane, as we call it. A bit of a bump there. You saw him try to correct it. Sweeps out of that, up to 4th, up to 5th, through the Renault curve. Through here, they're actually pulling 4G for about 4 seconds. It really puts a lot of stress to the neck. A lot of wear on that left front tire as he turns into Repsol. 3rd gear again. Got to keep it nice and smooth, but these long constant radius corners really take a toll on the tires. Coming now into the hairpin at Seat, it's slightly downhill, and of course low gear. They get a lot of wheel spin. They've got to be very careful how they get the traction coming out. Works his way out through a left kink, and then of course into the worst chicane, rather worthless chicane I call it, and then sweep them well up to Kamsa. Kamsa's a blind brow. Oh, there you are. Can just about see the exit as you come over. You've got to have a well-handling car to get through this bit well. Overtaking can be done down this bit of straight 190 as they come into it through La Quexa. Work their way out tight, oversteers quite a lot if they're not careful, through Bank, Sabadell again. Careful to keep that car tucked in. You can see the hands working on the wheel. Bit of oversteer as he comes out. Now these last 2 turns, 10 and 11, vital. This one, 11 onto the straight. Got to keep it smooth as he comes out. Back onto the straight. Let's just go down now and get some of the drivers' views on this track.
The opening of qualifying hour, Hakkinen was fast, and he just got faster from then on.
Yes, he just kept popping them in there. He's been quick all weekend, and poor David's scratching his 7 tenths behind his teammate.
It wasn't until his last run that Michael Schumacher got up for 3rd, and Fisichella's 4th.
Yeah, well, Fisichella's been behind Alexander Wurz all year, done a great job, got himself together after some nasty accidents the last couple of weeks.
Their Benetton and Ferrari teammates occupy the 3rd row.
Here's Alexander Wurz. Couldn't have been quite so happy, but Eddie Irvine's been suffering from a back problem, so maybe now he's got his seat more comfortable. Expect a better result from him.
Johnny Herbert got up for 7th, and Damon Hill's last run was aborted with engine failure.
Yes, unfortunately it was. Damon Hill's up there doing a great job again. Must be very happy with that position on the grid.
First top 10 qualifying for the Stewarts this year.
Yeah, and Barrichello's got the new P4 spec engine. Must be much happier with that. Right up there. Unfortunately, Jan Magnussen doesn't, and he's further back. Villeneuve had a dismal time finishing up in the tire wall at the end of his last lap in qualifying.
Ralf Schumacher also had some problems in qualifying, and there's Penny in the first of the Prost.
Yes, Panis is pretty happy with that. They expected greater things, but they are getting the reliability now.
Next row, row 7, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the 2nd Williams. Jean Alesi in the Sauber had problems in the morning warm-up, very slow.
Yes, very slow, and in fact, Alesi had a crash earlier on in the weekend and hasn't seemed to really come back up since then.
Row number 8, Pedro Diniz in the 2nd Arrows, and Jarno Trulli in the 2nd Prost. Then back in the 9th row, Mika Salo in the 2nd Arrows. He has the only finish for that team this year, 9th at San Marino. And there's Jan Magnussen. The team broke off negotiations with Jos Verstappen to perhaps fill Magnussen's seat. Jackie Stewart thought that that was interfering with Magnussen's efforts, that let's get that out of the way, let's concentrate on making this car right for Jan and see what he can do. For the back, Esteban Tuero in the Minardi. Now, he has tested a lot here over the winter. It's the F1 circuit he's most familiar with, so he may have a good run here today. And Nakano, his teammate, in the second Minardi. Finally, Takagi in the Terrell occupies 21st on the grid. Ricardo Rosset did not run within 107% of the pole winner's fastest lap, and thus he does not qualify.
There'll be quite a few drivers out there that are happy about that bit too.
Rosset. Well, there are drivers that are paid a lot, and there are drivers that are pay a lot to get into Formula One. And that's kind of how the grid lines up. Start of the race coming up next on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Spain. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor. Last year here, Derek, an aborted start to begin things. And let's have a look at what happened here at the start of last year's Grand Prix of Spain.
There's already a gap on the grid. I think it's Gerhard Berger's at the back of the grid already before it starts, because he obviously failed to get there on time. Here they go on their warming up lap.
It was a four wide start, 3 abreast, 2 rows deep going into that first corner.
And look at Schumacher come down the inside. Absolutely amazing as he streaks down the inside. 2 abreast, 3 abreast as he goes through the corner. Amazing that nobody actually touched going through this first part of the track.
A really wild start here. Is it because the straightaway is so long before the first corner?
Well, they do. I mean, they do arrive probably about 150 miles an hour by the time they get there. Remember, these cars do 0 to 60 in 2.6, 0 to 100, and stop again in under 6 seconds. So they do have some acceleration, not quite like your average family saloon.
With so many right-hand turns, tires are expected to be a big story today.
Yes, well, of course, there's a big problem. Remember, we have the difference between Goodyear and, of course, Bridgestone. Nearly all the Goodyear runners are running the harder compound, except for Johnny Herbert. He's running a softer one for some reason. It is a major problem with the wear on that outside left front tire. They could have 1, 2, or 3 pit stops. I think we really favor 2 pit stops for the pit strategy. And, of course, we'll have to wait and see just how that pans out. But I believe it'll probably be only 2 pit stops.
A lot of places to pass here?
Well, there is that obviously one coming down past the pits for 190 miles an hour, and then you've got the bit down the little back chute where they're pulling over 180 as they sweep down into L'Archaic. So it's quite a good opportunity. We've already got one of the arrows in the pits. That is not a very good sign at this stage of the game.
Pedro Diniz.
He will have to start from the back of the grid. Well, he was pretty well back there anyway, but it's still not nice to start there, even if you start at all.
Formation lap complete. And the front of the grid looking familiar. 2 McLarens and then Schumacher in that red Ferrari, then the 2 Benettons.
I have to think here, of course, that Mika Häkkinen, if he gets a good start, is just going to disappear. But then, you know, stranger things have happened. Watch for Michael Schumacher. He's going to be determined to get in amongst those 2 McLarens in front. He's got to break them up.
3 points separate the 2 McLaren teammates, then Schumacher and his Ferrari teammate are behind. Getting set for the start of the Grand Prix of Spain.
Great start from Mika Häkkinen.
And here they come, fanning out 4 wide.
Schumacher had a dismal start. Even Eddie Irvine's ahead of him. Eddie's going to try and get past that Benetton. Is he going to make it 2 abreast round the corner? Let us see what happens. Who can tell? Eddie's still there. Bold Eddie. He's in front. Michael Schumacher droning around a little bit. Doesn't know where to go. Look at the group at the back.
Fisichella trying to fight off Schumacher, and a great start for Barrichello. Up to 7th from 9th. What a run for the Stewart.
Well, of course, there was such a schmozzle on the other side with Michael having a bad time. I think the Barrichello mate capitalized on it. But what a great start there by Häkkinen, and of course Eddie Irvine. Now this is going to be intriguing because Eddie's in front of that Benetton and Michael's right behind. And there's no doubt that Benetton is going extremely well. And remember, the Benetton is on Bridgestone tires and the Ferraris are on Goodyears. Somebody going very slowly at the back. I wonder why that was, or whether it's the arrows that managed to get on the grid and is going around just to get started, to say he started the race, to collect his start money, as we say.
And look at the gap that already the 2 McLarens have opened up, and we've not yet completed a lap.
No, Eddie Irvine is obviously holding that lot up to start with, but who knows? You see also what strategies they're running, whether some are running fuller tanks than others for a 1-stop or a 2-stop strategy. The Benetton looking like it's all over the back of Eddie Irvine. One of the Williams there actually in a better position than I expected it to be. I get the impression that there is only one Williams there, but maybe it's a lot further back than I think. The other Williams car. They had a dismal time, as you well know. Hakkinen already got 1.8 seconds on the first lap. That is outstanding. I knew he'd get a good lead, but not quite that much straight away. But the Flying Finn is on a roll, and he wants to see that he's world champion. He knows he can do it. He used to beat Michael Schumacher in kart racing, or should I say in go-kart racing. He beat all these guys. He knows he's the best in the world. He can do it. But of course, he's got to keep his head and use some of that experience to the full.
And you know, good for Eddie Irvine, who's posted third. Gained 3 points, or rather 3 positions from the start. Irvine said this week he lashed out and he says, I don't care what anyone thinks of me except for the people who matter. And that's my teammate, the head of Ferrari, the team's director and technical director. Jacques Villeneuve came off the grid 10th, and he's moved up to 8th place.
But no sign of his teammate. Howard Frenson is even worse about they're having an awful time. They had a slightly changed car for this weekend. I think they expected greater things. Remember, their engine is 30 horsepower down on the Ferraris and, of course, on the McLarens, but then so are the Benettons, because they're running the same Renault Mechachrome engines. Let's just watch the start again.
Now watch Schumacher, the red car. He does not get a good start here.
He actually got far too much wheel spin, and just look at Eddie Irvine had a dynamic start there from the third row. He's zapping up, and of course across goes the Benetton to try and block him out, but Eddie zips through down the inside, down the middle, because he had more momentum. But look at Mika Hakkinen streaking away.
And Barrichello, the white car on the outside.
Yes, he had a bit of a clear run, a very lovely run round the outside of Alexander Wirtz. Oops! And he gets chopped off. Not such a nice run, perhaps. Here's a shot from the back. Somebody did go off the road. We didn't see that.
2 cars.
So yeah, there's Frenson. We wondered where he went to, and that's where he went to. He went off the track. I wonder if he kept the engine going. Yes,
he's rejoined. He's well back in 20th position.
Oh, he's having an awful time, I'm sure. You know, when you get this early in for a change to the nose on the Frenson car, change to the nose, a lot of have dirt, sand all over the place. They're adjusting the wing a little bit there as it goes on, and off he goes.
You know, there aren't many race cars that 2 mechanics can lift up from the front end to replace the nose.
Well, that's not good for poor old Williams. It's amazing they can go from doom to gloom just like that. It's really, 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 really bad for poor old Frank Williams. He's at this race. He wasn't at the Imola race a couple of weeks ago, but he must be wondering just where they're going wrong. But, you know, they have lost Adrian Newey, and Adrian has gone to McLaren. It does make a big dent in a team when your top designer goes, plus the fact they just haven't got it together in any department.
Pedro Diniz is going again. Electrical problems for Diniz on his arrows, but he is running. Well, Eddie Irvine trying to hold back the Benetton and his teammate Michael Schumacher. Not the first time this season that Eddie has run ahead of Michael.
Well, of course, the problem here is they've got these very long corners, as we talked about earlier. Puts a lot of wear on that outside right tire. Outside left tire, I apologize. But you see, the problem is, as they go through these corners, there's a lot of turbulence. And when they get too close, you get an unstabilizing to the car behind, and you cannot get close. Therefore, you cannot actually go by anything, because you can't get close enough to actually sort of slingshot as you do in IndyCar and NASCAR. And this is the main problem on a circuit with these long, fast corners. And so, of course, Fisichella can't really get that close to Eddie, and Michael can't get very close to Fisichella. Remember, Michael actually got close to Williams this morning in warm-up and flew off the road just to prove the point. So look at Hakkinen's lead over David Coulthard. And I don't think David's conserving his position. David Coulthard wants more than anything to win this race, because he knows that if you can start to prove that you're the best man in the team, I don't care what you say, they'll start to load up a little bit more effort into that one car or that one driver.
We see entering some of the corners, Derek, that washboard you talked about when we took a lap around it, that although it's a very abrasive circuit, it's mostly quite smooth, but it looks like some of the heavy braking zones have gotten really kind of rough here.
Yes, it's a strange thing. It's not they're not bumps. Here we go. Let's watch the start again. Look at Eddie coming down the inside. Absolutely superb. He actually got held up a little bit down there as he goes through beside Fisichella, but no, Michael just manages to squeeze in front of Wirtz. Lucky for Michael, he did. And of course, remember, Fisichella is now out very wide, but he's holding his line because the next one's a right-hander, and of course held his way through just behind Eddie, and that's the way it is. Nothing's happened much since then. But of course, they also have to consider, sorry, Mike, they have to consider that if they get too close, they lose this grip at the front, which in fact encourages the tyre to slip even more and therefore build up the heat. And they've got to think it's a long, hard race. It's a very physical race on the drivers. They're pulling 3 to 4G in nearly all these longer corners. And that really takes it out of them.
Look at the interval, 4.8 seconds from Hakkinen back to Coulthard. Well, that's become a problem, Derek, not just in Formula One, but virtually every form of racing in America as aerodynamics become more and more of the equation. Indy cars, of course, and even in NASCAR, the drivers complain of they pick up an aerodynamic push, an aero push they call it, from a lack of down pressure from clean air on the nose, and it just skates the nose.
There's nothing new about it. It's been there for years, but the problem is now is the fact that they totally lose this grip on the car, and they're going so darn fast, and because the cars are so equal, they can't overtake. And that is the major problem with racing, or can be these days. We saw some great overtake in Argentina, but this race could be very difficult for these guys. They cannot get close enough, pull out of the stream and go by. They can go faster by being in the slipstream, but they can't do anything about it when they get to the braking area because the braking areas are so short. These carbon fiber brakes are so darn efficient. They can stop so quickly. There's no way in that shot there that Fisichella can do anything at all about Eddie Irvine.
Well, that's an area that the FIA hoped to address this year to encourage more passing in Formula One, but it appears that what they're going to have to do is address the airflow out from behind the car so that the following car gets more clean air to run in, if they're going to improve the ability of the cars to run close and pass easily.
Well, Indy cars have improved it to quite a great degree, and I think Formula One are going to have to follow this. I don't know quite why it takes them so long to sort of get on the bandwagon of Indy cars and try and do it, but Indy cars do it at 240 miles an hour around Indy and other circuits. I don't know why they can't solve it for Formula One somehow.
McLaren Mercedes leads the Grand Prix of Spain. Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. A great battle, as we thought, shaping up for third.
He's thinking, if only I had another 50 horsepower. Because that's, of course, what they're behind, though, Ryan. 30 horsepower behind that Ferrari. And you can see the way the Ferrari actually seemed to get away on the end of the straight.
Well, it doesn't look from here that Irvine is holding up Fisichella to that degree.
Now, you could see the understeer. You could see the push as he turned into that long radius corner, and that's what destroys that left front tyre. Goodyear running this harder compound. They're expected to maybe come in with yet another compound and a wider front tyre. They're talking about making the front tyre nearly as wide as the rear. But as somebody said, he won't be much good at Monaco because we won't be able to get round a hairpin.
Eddie Irvine has now opened up 1 second on fourth place Fisichella. Here's your running order. The Grand Prix of Spain continues on Fox Sports Net after this. Every night on Fox Sports Net, it's Fox Sports News Prime Time. All the scores, all the highlights, and all the breaking stories covering your hometown team. 7 nights a week, we're there. Fox Sports News Prime Time. We were watching Johnny Herbert there.
They're running for 8th place behind Ed Villeneuve. Very, very close indeed. It was said that, in fact, Frenzen was nerfed off by one of the Saubers, but it obviously wasn't Johnny. It would probably be the other car behind him of Alesi, because Alesi was well back, as was Frenzen. Johnny's had some great drives this year, I must admit. I just hope he gets a result here. He's had some dismal results, having had some very stirring drives and great qualifying sessions. I mean, Villeneuve is just not happy with that car. They still have some modifications for Monaco, but they don't really think they're going to work until Canada, because Monaco is such a special sort of track. But poor old Jack rather, is trying desperately hard. I mean, just over all those curves, just like his dad used to be years ago. But, you know, when you've got a dog under you, there's nothing you can do about it. And he's really suffering right now.
That's right. You can't ride a dead horse. And who would have believed that the world champion would be foundering at this stage in the season with an uncompetitive car?
But look, Barry Keller doing a super job, and he's ahead of Villeneuve and, of course, Johnny Herbert. Don't forget, and this is great for Jackie Stewart's team. The things have really looked up since the last race. It was doom and gloom before that, but there he is. You can see him. There's Barrichello, followed by Villeneuve, followed by Johnny Herbert, doing a superb. I just love for Stewart Racing for this to hold together. Ford's need it. There's been a little bit of chatting going on, headbutting between Ford and Stewart. Jackie knows that it's a long haul, but he didn't know it was going to be as long and as hard as this.
Well, and our next race is Canada, and from there, the Stewart team, or excuse me, Monaco, then Canada, and then a trip to the Ford factory. And when you go to Dearborn, it's going to be nice to have a race like this in your pocket to say, yes, we have gained a lot of ground.
Without a doubt. I mean, you need this result. Remember, of course, Barrichello did get a wonderful second at Monaco last year, albeit in the wet. Of course, the sad thing about this is Jan Magnussen. He's an outstanding young Danish driver. He's just been demoralized after demoralized for the last 15 months in this team. Obviously, they ended up saying it has to be the driver because Barrichello keeps doing a better job. But Barrichello is much more experienced, and if you don't get the miles, how can you get the experience? You might have been there a year and a half, but if you've only completed about a third of the races, how can you get mileage? And of course, Jan Magnussen, they're talking about him leaving the team and such like, but he doesn't have the latest equipment, even in this race and in qualifying. He didn't have this new P4 Z-Tech Ford engine, so you know the odds are stacked against him, and everybody there looks and says, oh, that guy's going better in the one, but Stewart better than the other, and it's down to the engine as much as anything.
But it's so hard in this sport to evaluate a driver when there are so many other factors. Magnussen has only one finish this year. That was 10th in Brazil, and as you say, he's just not getting a lot of track time because the cars keep getting shot out from under him.
We've seen Johnny Herbert dicing with Jack Villeneuve quite a bit, but usually it's for 5th and 6th place. But here we are dicing for 8th and 9th place. Poor old John Alesi, Johnny's teammate, is battling it back for something like 16th, 17th place along there with Nakano. And that I think is because, oh, here's a bit of a move going on here. Johnny having a look. No, it isn't Johnny.
No,
this is Alesi, I'm sorry, going down past Nakano that I was talking about. He does go, look at Alesi, all sideways under braking. Of course, he gets it, loses it, but there's no way that he's going to, he's going to try for the second part, but no, Jean keeps his head of that. He must have got involved there at the beginning with Frenzen, hence the fact he dropped right back behind Nakano.
Actually, he's had an awful day, Derek. Alesi was only 19th quickest in the morning warm-up, so it just has not been his day.
Well, he had an off on Friday, and he really damaged the car badly, and of course that I think set him back a long way. And those sort of things, they do perturb you when you're one of the elder statesmen. When you're younger, you seem to better put it under your belt. Fisichella's had a major wrap up at Imola. He had neck problems. He missed some of the testing here at Barcelona the other day. But now, you know, he had another crash here too, testing, and wrapped the wall at 180 miles an hour. But he's back there bouncing, and he's having a go at the front.
Right. Jean Todt and Ross Brawn watching the computer monitors.
There was talk of Jean Todt leaving Ferrari, maybe not having his contract renewed, but I believe he's right on the point of renewing his contract for the future, which I think would make a lot of difference to Michael Schumacher's decision as to where he goes for next year. But as somebody said, who needs Michael Schumacher at McLaren? It's boring enough as it is with Schumacher getting out there and maybe being a 2 or 3 tenths quicker than Hakkinen is not going to be much for the spectators. It might be more satisfying for Michael to be up there winning races, but he said he's going to win races in a Ferrari, and the guy, I believe, will stay with Ferrari, certainly at this time.
I think he will, but right now he's some 19 seconds back of Coulthard. You know, last race at San Marino in the closing stages, he was closing in on David in the closing laps. And David said it was because he was easing the car. Schumacher, of course, was running flat out, but boy, what a different day.
Yeah. Seeing Johnny here doing such a Goodyear job, you mustn't forget, of course, that he's on a softer Goodyear tyres.
Let's ride with Mika Hakkinen.
Isn't it lovely having all that clear track ahead of you? How wonderful to be in lead. Second lead Mika's stretched out. Absolutely phenomenal to pull that very nearly 3/4 of a second a lap. He's lapping a second a lap quicker than Michael Schumacher. Of course, may well be being held up a little bit by Fisichella, but you can't guarantee that. The thing is, as we say, it's easy to stay with somebody, but overtaking them is another problem.
McLaren Mercedes leads the Spanish Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen, the pole sitter. David Coulthard, second fast qualifier. But the battle is here for third on back. Eddie Irvine for Ferrari, Giancarlo Fisichella for Benetton, Michael Schumacher, Alexander Wirtz, As we said right from the top of the show, this third-place battle looks like it's going to be a good one all day.
You just never know exactly, of course, whether Häkkönen's running a light.
So it's McLaren, Ferrari, Benetton. Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Spain will continue after this. Let's catch up on some of our pre-race stories. Jon Magnussen, 13th for Stewart, well up in the field. The Arrows team has Mika Salo in 14th, but Pedro Diniz had that electrical problem earlier. He's last, 21st. Ralf Schumacher, whom Peter Windsor profiled early in the day, running in 16th. Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Williams back in 20th after that pit stop to replace the nose.
And there is Ralf Schumacher back in something like 16th place, dicing with Takagi. Now one wonders what sort of problems he's got back there. I mean, that is terrible. You can see he's using a lot of the road. I mean, what an awful situation for Jordans, who was sort of basically running so well all weekend.
Had a very, very bad start. He really got caught out, boxed out on the start as we saw them come down that long straightaway, 3 and even 4 abreast at one point.
Well, he went back to the factory to practice starts, did 15 starts apiece last week, but you can see he's really all over the back of Takagi. But of course, Takagi, he probably never had such elevated company behind him. He's got a Lacey, and of course, he's got Ralf Schumacher. Probably doesn't quite know what to do about it. But as I say, this track is not easy to overtake. But it makes you wonder about the power of the Mugen Honda engine if they can't get by that.
The Tyrrell there.
Yeah, Tyrrell.
Well, we could always send him to Frank Hawley's drag racing school or Eddie Hills. I mean, if you need start practice. No, maybe not.
They probably haven't heard of Eddie Hills.
No. Well, they should have. As Damon Hill back in 10th, he also had a very slow warm-up this morning. Salo in 14th, Takagi, Ralf Schumacher, Alesi back in 17th. Then Nakano back in 18th. Frentzen is 20th, Diniz 21st, and Tuero 19th. I thought we'd have a better day from Tuero. He was very optimistic and has had a lot of laps here, more so than any of these other F1 circuits.
Nobody actually quite ready for a pit stop yet, but we have to think about it. Those that are doing a two-stop strategy race will be preparing themselves in a few laps. At 21 laps, they should be coming for a two-lap. Here goes Ralf slip. Oh, he's not, but he's right there trying to have a go, but there's no way he seems to be able to make that move. But they're going to, if their two-stop strategy guys will be in very short, well, not very shortly, but the next few laps.
Oh, you can see here, Schumacher's really clearly balked. He had enough time to move all the way down to the inside, entering the corner before the line got taken away.
The thing is, what he has to do is he's got to get enough speed out of the corner now to help him on the straightaway as he goes down the straight. Because that's where he needs to be able to get by, is on momentum. Like coming down here is where he should be right close, but you see, he can't get close to the previous corner because of the turbulence behind the car. And therefore he can't get close enough under braking. Alesi is much closer to Ralf than Ralf is to Kaji. So,
oh, look at Alesi's car. You saw Alesi's car slide out on exit of the corner.
Alesi's had some good results this season, but he certainly doesn't look like he's going to get them that brilliantly now. Häkkinen, meanwhile, pulling away 13 seconds ahead from David Coulthard, 5 seconds between Coulthard and Irvine. David is actually not pulling away much from Eddie at all. It's been 5 seconds for several laps. And of course, we've seen how close Fisichella is to Eddie as well, and Michael Schumacher to that as well. Michael Schumacher really not doing much about the program at all. So they'll be stopping in about 5 laps. Those that are on 21-lap strategy, two-stop strategy. Look at the way that car streaks up under braking. But of course, just because you come up under braking doesn't automatically mean that you're going to go quicker through the corners. Sometimes you can overdo it. And here we have that's the turn called Camp, so that's where they had that blind brows. They sweep over the top.
And a bit further back, Damon Hill.
Damon Hill in 10th place with Oliver Panis behind him. Oh, Oliver, what a load of understeer as he went through there. Nearly disappeared off the road. That must have put him back a bit. Damon not going particularly well. I'm sure he expected more than this. I think he was on the grid in 9th place, but I think he expected a better position at this point of the race. But, you know, the start does seem to sort a lot of problems out, and if you get boxed in, boy, you're out of the game for a while. Meanwhile, Villeneuve is still holding that position ahead of Johnny Herbert, can do nothing about it. They've really got to do something about trying to get these cars go past one another, because there's just nothing, I mean, there's nothing that Johnny seems to be able to do to go by. If he could get a front of Jacques, I guess he would pull away.
And a bit of resorting for all these teams.
Oh, smoke as
yes.
Villeneuve, no doubt, locks up a tire, I would suggest.
The X-Wings absent from these cars, banned by the FIA, and these were two of the teams that had made good use of them.
Villeneuve again locking up his left front brake as he goes in. Remember, oh, Benetton preparing themselves. Remember, of course, that they're cars are so stiff. And of course, as the car offloads itself, the rear roll bar is so tight on the car that as the car leans into a corner, as you're braking, because they brake as they go. Actually, no, it's a cross team. As the car turns in the corner, lifts the front wheel up, and of course, that's when you get a locking front wheel. Cross team coming in very early to change their Bridgestones.
Olivier Penny looking for his second finish of the season. Not since Australia has he been running at the finish where he was 9th. And Jarno Trulli 11th at Argentina, his only finish.
Last year, of course, they had lots of blistered tires in this race, but it's difficult to blister tires with grooves in. But it doesn't mean to say they won't wear very, very extreme. And I remember seeing some in qualifying and in practice yesterday. The tires actually were like flaking, like shaving across. Penny coming in for a very early stop.
Well, what's that left front look like? Did not appear to be blistered at all.
No, they wouldn't. I doubt they can't get blistering on that sort of tire, in my opinion, Mike. But of course, he was behind Damon Hill and wasn't making much impression on him. He may well have flatted a tire, of course, in trying to outbrake Damon or something, and therefore opted to come in now and change tires and get fuel and get a clear road in front of him. Now he's probably going to hold some other people up because he's going to get really in the thick of some of the quicker cars.
And there was still tread depth showing, so the tire was not worn out. McLaren Mercedes heads the field in the Grand Prix of Spain. Mika Hakkinen has led from the pole. Teammate David Coulthard runs second. You're watching Formula One racing on Fox Sports Net. 20 laps complete here in Spain. We'll be going to Monaco for the Grand Prix Sunday, May 24th. Michael Schumacher looks to repeat at Monte Carlo and help Ferrari close the gap on McLaren Mercedes. May 24th, the Grand Prix of Monaco on Fox Sports Net. Check your local listings for the race time in your area. While we were away, Ralf Schumacher made a pit stop at lap 20. 9.2 second stop for the second of the Jordans.
Well, I think he came in early, in fact, because if you recollect, he was behind another guy in front, and he just couldn't do anything about him. So I think he opted to go in. Remember, he was behind Nakano, I think I'm right in saying. And so I think he wanted to go in and get away so he could be clear on his own. And I think that was the same with Olivier Panis that came in for his stop. I think so they could get a clear bit of road ahead of him. Because all they're doing was just skewing the tires up, not getting anywhere at all. In fact, there's some very quick laps going on right now. Irvine, Fisichella and Schumacher have been putting in, not as quick as Hakkinen, but they've actually been putting in some, times all in the 1:25. So instead of being a second behind Hakkinen, they're only sort of 5 or 6 tenths behind him, albeit Hakkinen has a very comfortable lead.
Now we're looking at the leaders because we expect they may pit this time around. If it's a two-stop strategy, the Williams team at the ready.
Ferrari are ready for Irvine to come in as well. They're on, we said, on the two stoppers will be in around the 21 lap, and we're on 21 laps. There's a little bit of movement going on here as Hakkinen goes down inside one of the Minardis. No trouble there at the moment. Anyway, nice move by Mika. He doesn't lose too much time of his own as he goes in there. Keeps Nakano out wide so he can get a clear line himself. Doesn't want to sacrifice any speed unless he has to. You just hope the other guy appreciates it as well.
Here's the Tyrrell in, and there's only one Tyrrell in the race. This is Takagi. Rosette was too slow to qualify for the race.
Oh, it's a busy place in there right now. Very busy. Somebody stopped there. One of the arrows has stopped. And the other arrows.
Oh.
Both stopped at the same time. I don't believe it. That's within feet of each other. My goodness me, that's awful.
Bit of fire there. Did they collide? Or did both expire at the same time?
Well, they're a long way apart, so they shouldn't have hit each other. Here goes one of the cross. Here they come up. One explodes here. Look at it. Clouds of smoke out of him as he pulls over. He's not in anybody's way as he explodes. And the other one's coming across too. He's going by as well. And he's in trouble. I don't believe it. They've gone off simultaneously. I wonder if it's the same darn thing. It certainly something to do with that engine area. Unless they haven't brewing up their afternoon tea.
Smoke from Denitsa from the air engine intake. Jordan pit stop. That's Damon Hill.
Good pit stop. A lot quicker than the Ford team. I guess the Ford aren't used to doing many pit stops this year. So
yeah, well, that's right.
Not very rehearsed at it.
Johnny Herbert's been in. Rubens Barrichello has made his first stop of the day. He's coming at lap 21.
It's amazing how David Coulthard could dominate the last race, and here he is really scratching to get any look in at all against Mika Häkkinen. David just cannot get it together on this circuit. This circuit does favour, of course, the McLarens. Every circuit favours McLaren, but this one particularly, these long constant radius corners, the setup, the handling of that car is so good. And everybody's been dreading getting to Barcelona with these lovely long corners. Not those corners you can see now, but the long corners they've been going around a lot, which does favour the setup of that McLaren.
Some 16 cars on the lead lap. Häkkinen has lapped everyone up to Jean Alesi. Benetton pit stop. Alexander Wirtz. He was in 6th place when he came in.
Slow stop, nonetheless, not a very good one. But that's what happens. He seemed to be ready to go, and then they took a long time just taking out that refueling rig. And that's all you need, a couple of seconds, and you're not looking good at all. Let's just see how they're going to like. Be interesting once all these sorting out, all this jiggling around of pit stops is over, just who comes out in front. I was interested because I'm intrigued to know just how the Ferrari actually is going to get on with these Goodyear tires up front. Häkkinen having another look, going around the outside.
That was Magnussen, I believe.
It's so nice to see that Stewart finish this race on a nice strong footing. David Coulthard still 5 or 6 tenths slower than Mika Häkkinen. You've really got to keep it in there to make an impression on Mika Häkkinen. Nobody's doing it much, and Mika had the most amazing record over his years, always convinced that he'd be a world champion.
Look at the front wings there on Coulthard. The best spotting feature between Coulthard and Häkkinen is the ident on the front wing. It's orange on Coulthard's car, it's black on Häkkinen. A fellow named David Wright from Adelaide, Australia, put up a page on the internet with all the spotting features between teammates, and some of them are very difficult to spot. This one's not. Drivers' helmets, of course, remain the best identification, one to another.
David really has to press on if he's got to get up with Mika Häkkinen. Häkkinen just has, I've said it all year, but he has just that bit of extra fire in his belly to make that impression over David. David is a very, very smooth, a wonderful driver, but Mika somehow has that extra bit of fire in his belly, flicks it across the curbs, and everybody says, how does he do it? But Mika does it, and the other guys don't seem to be able to do it. He's in a certain class of his own within his own team, and David really has to get in there and be more aggressive in my book. Aggressiveness is what you need. It's all very well having controlled aggression as we have in sports cars, but in Formula One, boy, you've got to have total aggression.
Jean Alesi, Sauber Petronas making his stop. Jarno Trulli has also been in. Fast stop for Alesi.
6.6, that was brilliant. It's a pity he's back in 15th place.
Eddie Irvine.
Now they need an extra mechanic to hold a shield over that exhaust, which is right behind the refueling rig. They've got these mammoth exhausts coming out right on that flat body at the back there, and if any of that fuel trickled back, boy, there would be a major flare-up.
Giancarlo Fisichella surrendered 4th spot to make his pit stop.
Now we'll see just how, I'm sure you'll see that Michael Schumacher will make his stop, and he'll come out ahead of Fisichella, because that Ferrari team and Schumacher's in and out always combines to make a very, very quick overall pit stop time. Only we'll see in the next couple of laps just how it came to fruition. But they probably left Michael out there so he can get a couple of quick laps without anybody in the way, build up a bit of speed, and then come in and refuel. And here he is now, picking up that speed before he goes in for fuel. Picking up some time. He's in 3rd place. He didn't need that car in front. It's one of the back markers. I know it's one of the Saubers, but he's going to go like the wind on this couple of laps to just pick up those few tenths that he couldn't make because Fisichella's air was actually slowing him down. This is where Schumacher shows his greatness.
Mika Häkkinen, the leader and pole sitter, making his stop. He had a 12-second lead on David Coulthard before this 8-second pit stop.
A very, very conservative stop. It's nearly 8 seconds, but because that's what it has to be. He has to be conservative. He's got a lovely lead. Do everything positively, get the wheels on tight, make sure everything's good, and set him under his way. They know they're dominating, so they can take their time over security, things like that. And there's Eddie Irvine coming through now. Does that mean David Coulthard's gone in?
I think he'd already gone by, Derek, and would pick up the lead. Coulthard would be the leader.
So we then actually saw second and third place going through. Hakkinen is second. Interesting to think. It'd be interesting to think if Coulthard was on a one-stop strategy, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
That would fool the works a bit, but I don't think he's got enough lead. Mika will still pull him in at half a second a lap. Plus, of course, he's got fresh tyres. But Mika was saying the other day that they often don't know when they go out to sit in their cars what strategy they're on. The team decides which guy's going to do a two-stop or a three.
July came early for the Arrows team as Ron Dennis stalks the pit lane. Simultaneously, Pedro Diniz and Mika Salo lost an engine at almost the same moment. Tire warmers carried to the side as the McLaren Mercedes team awaits David Coulthard. Coulthard is the leader. Picked up the lead on Hakkinen's stop.
21 pick it up. Take the wheels off, fresh wheels go on. Meanwhile, the refuelers back there refueling. Good stop, 6.8 seconds, checking stuff, getting dirt out of the radiators. Off he goes, a very good stop.
And Schumacher is now in as well. There are those exhausts right below the wing, you see them.
Off it goes, 8 seconds. It seems rather unfair because the guy seems to be on the move before the clock stopped clicking. Nevertheless, a good stop. But interesting to see just where Michael comes out on the road as to whether he's behind Eddie, because then dear old Eddie may well have to move over. Here he goes in front of Eddie Irvine.
Oh.
Is that possible? It is possible. But that just shows the speed of Schumacher's lap and, of course, their pit stop. This is still not in the stop. Long stop. Not a good stop. But they may well have been adjusting the wings. The Williams is the only car that they can actually physically adjust the wing on the front during a pit stop. So they might have been doing something to the front because Jacques, no doubt, was not happy with what he was doing.
His engine sounded badly as he came down. Oh, there's a rev limiter.
Yeah, that's the rev limiter. It happens every time. But I'm intrigued to know what the order of the race is. Now there's Mika Hakkinen on his merry way. Now, of course, things can change at this point because sometimes they put another set of tires on and they may well not be quite as nice.
Derek, two things contributed to Michael Schumacher coming out ahead of Eddie Irvine. One, Schumacher ran more laps on a light load, and so his last laps were likely quicker than Irvine's first laps with a full load of fuel. And as you've said all season, Schumacher is the fastest getting in and out of the pits of all the F1 drivers.
You should have my job, Mike.
No. I'm backing you up.
I appreciate that. Hakkinen is now 14 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, but I'd like just to know exactly how far Coulthard just happens to be ahead of Schumacher.
Oh, the Benetton and Ferrari battle.
Oh, no, don't hit.
Oh, and they collide.
That was oh dear, oh. Somebody's kept their engine going. That was again Michael really not behaving very well. I thought Michael cannot do that sort of thing and expect to get away with it. Is he still off the road or did he get going? There'll be no points from him if he didn't get going. There he is.
You don't win a world championship.
There's Irvine. It wasn't. I thought Michael was in front. That was silly of Eddie. It was a desperate move down the inside, and he is out of it. Oh dear, Eddie, you should have done that. You were running so well. That's really frustrating and remarkably immature.
Let's talk a little, Derek, about these gravel traps. Some people criticize the traps for arresting the motion of the car, preventing the driver from getting back in the race. But when they slow the car to a gradual stop, they're doing the primary job they're intended for, to keep that car from the eventual wall.
Absolutely, and that's why you saw Schumacher in one of the races. Stupid. Fisichella is not happy. It was stupid. It was a very silly move, Eddie. It was stupid. Right down the inside, you can't get away. I mean, Eddie's he's going to get belted. I mean, he's well, can you imagine the press tomorrow? Fisichella's Italian, and Eddie's driving for an Italian team. There's going to be a lot of bad feeling about that one. Here we go. Let's just watch it again. Actually,
no, this is earlier.
This is not it. This is Michael leaving the pits. I believe I'm right in saying. And Eddie, you see, and look what happens there. Oh, that's a previous pass. Fisichella gets by Eddie on that corner. No, he doesn't, but that was a previous line. Now here we go. Here we're having a look again. Now Eddie is in front of Fisichella. Fisichella pulls out, goes down past him. This is something we didn't see just now. And as they come in the corner, it looks like Eddie actually is, but
oh, Fizzy had a wheel on him, clearly.
But he was slightly in front. He went round the outside. Difficult to say, but I still think it was Eddie Irvine's fault.
I saw Irvine on the straightaway moving over toward Fisichella, but I'd like to see the helicopter shot to see if Fizzy crowded him to the inside or if Eddie just moved up high.
That was stupid. You know, that was a very silly move by Eddie. I'm sorry I said it was Michael's fault, but I saw a Ferrari and I thought it was him going by. But Michael now, of course, is very happily on his own, not worrying about either of those two, which is a pity. We needed a bit of a race back there, and we haven't got it anymore. Yeah, unless Michael can do something about Coulthard in front.
Now, it was a great battle between Fisichella, Irvine, and Schumacher, all knotted up there. But Fisichella and Irvine are out of the race. Hakkinen leads Coulthard, Schumacher, and Wurz. You're watching Fox Sports Net.
Ferrari streaks away. Look at this Barrichello in the Ford in 5th place. It'd be so wonderful for Stewart Racing if Barrichello could get in there. He's head of Villeneuve. But of course, Villeneuve, we're putting some pressure on him, as you can see there. He's right behind. This could be the dice of this part of the race. Is Jacques Villeneuve all over the back of Rubens Barrichello. Remember, Barrichello's on Bridgestone, and of course the Williams is on. Looks like a puff of smoke out of the back of that Williams there. That's my eyes deceiving me.
Derek, I'm surprised. The press, roundly the press is saying Jacques Villeneuve isn't trying. Jacques Villeneuve doesn't care. Who are the observers to say that?
Well, the problem is that they're always trying to make news out of nothing.
Yes.
And of course they like to say it because Jacques, I mean, when you're having a bad time, there's no point in looking too serious about it. You make a bit of a laugh about it because you are so upset about the whole thing that it's like light relief to say, yeah, sure, I'm having a great time. And that's why he has this sort of humorous air about him. He's not in the least bit funny. He's finding it so sick that he's laughing about it. Don't worry, when you're a competitor like Jacques' been behind before. Sure, he's been one of the best drivers. When they mount the two together, they nearly did it on their own just now.
Right, that's Fisichella's Benetton and Eddie Irvine's Ferrari.
Nothing wrong with them, of course, apart from the fact they've got dirt in the engines and they've stalled. But Villeneuve's really going to give Barrichello a hard time. Be interesting to see just what this Williams can do about this new P4 spec Zetec Ford engine. Engine going extremely well at the moment. Barrichello, of course, has the chance now to show just what he's made of. He hasn't been up this far up front since his 2nd place at Monaco last year, albeit, as we said before, in the rain. Prost, this is Pani again in for a change, I guess. It's truly, I'm so sorry.
Ooh, long stop.
Yeah. Off he goes.
Painfully long.
Who made a mess of that one? Somewhere at the back, somebody wasn't getting it right. It didn't seem like he wasn't getting into gear because there was no clunking going on. And usually you can hear clunk, clunk, clunk. He comes out somewhere where he didn't want to be. Michael Schumacher's now behind him. Michael won't be too happy with that, but there's always going to be somebody in front.
That extra 3 seconds, about 300 yards on the racetrack. Jacques Villeneuve, tracking by Kello. Villeneuve in 6th place. Fox Sports Net coverage of Formula One continues after this. You're watching Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Spain. 30 laps remain. 5th place battle here. That's Jacques Villeneuve, defending world champion, chasing Rubens Barrichello, who's having by far his best run of the season. Every night on Fox Sports Net, it's Fox Sports News Prime Time with all the scores, the highlights, the breaking stories. Your hometown team 7 nights a week. We're there. Fox Sports News Prime Time.
You have to say, Mike, Johnny Herbert's having yet another superb run there in the Sauber behind Jacques Villeneuve. Pity he couldn't have had a better stop than he did and got ahead of Jacques. Meanwhile, Barrichello isn't actually giving any time at all to Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques is not really making that much up on Barrichello. Remember, Jacques is having a lurid time. They've done some work to the car's suspension. They expect more to come in for Monaco, but of course Monaco is not necessarily the place that you're going to make new suspension work because it's such a specialist, tight little circuit, and all you're going to do is try and keep it between the guardrail. Look at his fuel flapping there on Villeneuve's car, which they had problem at the last race after a fuel stop. Now that means they might have to bring him in early because it's not legal to have that thing flapping in the breeze. I can't for the life of me see why it is illegal. It's they're probably going to bring him in.
What's the point of those flaps?
Well, I don't know. They only just put them on for this season, and for the life of me, I can't understand. I guess in a way, it means that if there's an incident that the fuel cap of a fuel filler isn't totally exposed, plus it possibly stops a certain amount of dirt getting in there and lying in the rim of the refueling rig, so when the fuel goes in, it takes it in with it. But
I'll buy that
if they
one.
make it work on aircraft, I know they have covers on aircraft as well, but there's obviously that reason for it.
Johnny Herbert up for 7th, and he has closed right in on Jacques Villeneuve.
But it seems that Johnny has a broken exhaust, which of course could mean he's going to start losing some power if it doesn't mean that something's going to fall off. Good view of that fuel filler cap. I'm sure Jack isn't aware for it, and to actually get called in to do something about it would be pretty horrible. You'd race the race of your year, really, and you get called in because the fuel cap's loose. Can't get over the way this Ford goes. This is the first time they've actually had the car really running well with this new engine. Remember Jan Magnussen, whose future with Stewart is really under the axe, or certainly under close scrutiny. He's back in 10th and 11th place, dicing with Ralf Schumacher. But Magnussen has not got such a good engine, of course, as Barry Keller. Barry Keller's got this new engine. They haven't been able to rev it as high as they used to. They rev these things 16,000, 17,000 revs, but they haven't been able to rev it as high recently, and because of the top-end reliability. So the guys have only been revving it sort of not at full revs during the race. Now they're able to do it. They found out the reasons for it back there at Ford, and they're making it work. But as Jackie Stewart said the other day, this isn't quite as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Now, we're talking about cars being able to run close together, and we can't put all the blame on the winged era cars. The closest finish in the Grand Prix of Spain, multiple car finish, in 1981, 4 cars finished within 1 second. But we've not seen anything like that since. The wing cars can run close, or at least could under those specifications.
But you see, in those days, they didn't have diffusers. It seems to be the diffusers that really funnel this air out the back, and it comes out in such a force, which helps the car go around the corner, because it's almost like a ground, well, it makes it ground effect, but of course it just forces its way out of the back. No, that's Villeneuve? No, it isn't Villeneuve. No, it's further back than that. That is Frentzen. Further. Oh God.
Is he passing the Tyrrell? Is that Frentzen passing the Tyrrell of?
Or is it Michael Schumacher?
Takagi.
Certainly a red car from here is difficult to see. Oh, it's Schumacher coming down the inside of his brother. Thank you very much, bro. I'll go through here, he says. Whoa, he went out a bit wide there too, let me tell you. And there's Jean Todt sitting in his throne, checking on the future of his man, Michael Schumacher. Not Paul happy, I'm sure, with Irvine, who really was doing a splendid job before. Barry Keller, meanwhile, position 1, plus 14.5 over your teammate, plus 35.2 over Michael Schumacher. Not a bad situation to be in. Very nice situation to be in.
Mika Hakkinen leads the points and this race. He's led from the pole, surrendered the lead to his teammate David Coulthard when Hakkinen was the first of the McLarens to make a pit stop. Esteban Tuero, 10-second stop-and-go penalty for the Minardi.
20 seconds between David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher at this point. Only 14 between Hakkinen and Coulthard. So Michael is obviously running a race just to get those points, because he knows that's all he can do this weekend. Another podium finish would be just what he wanted. Schumacher's got a penalty, 10 seconds. That's going to blow his points, maybe, because 10 seconds in the pits probably means something like 25-second overall stop. So that shows he didn't have his finger on that button enough. He came in just a little bit too exuberantly. And I wonder when the last time Michael Schumacher got a pit lane penalty. Lots of guys did, actually, during practice. We had 4 of the drivers got speed lane penalties. And, of course, it's a 75-mile-an-hour speed limit during the race, 120 kilometers an hour. So that's really going to be very depressing for Ferrari and also for Michael Schumacher. The Minardi not lighting up here at all.
No, that's the penalty he's serving.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He had a 10-second penalty.
Oh, I do apologize. I didn't realize that. Yes, that was his penalty, and Michael's going to get it too. He's going to be really, really upset about that. That would be some nice, very vital points to keep him in the hunt, Chief.
Can he serve that on his next pit stop, or does he have to be called in?
He has to do it totally on his own. He has to go into that little booth or go into his pit and actually be locked in there but he can't do it through a pit stop. And Wirtz is only, here he goes. Let's
flying
do it again, flying in there. And of course, Wirtz is only 16 seconds behind, so Wirtz will come. Michael should come out 10 seconds behind Wirtz or so. Here he goes into his pits, held up. What a real awful position for Michael, because he would be in for his second stop at any time at all.
This is 10 seconds.
Seems an eternity.
Yes.
Off he goes. Now, don't exceed it, Michael. Keep your finger on that button down the pit lane.
Wirtz and Villeneuve flash past, and Schumacher has some making up to do.
Look, is that Wirtz? No, that isn't Wirtz. So you just saw the blue, and I thought we got it all wrong here.
That's the Tyrrell a lap down over the lead.
We mustn't get too excited about this, but David Coulthard is actually inching up at a couple of tenths a lap on Mika, but he has a nice cushion there. He's obviously conserving his tyres rather like David did against Schumacher at Imola. And you just go around, don't go too fast, conserve your tyres, so when the time comes you can put some extra pressure into it. See, the way Mika's going at the moment, he could probably run the rest of the race on that set of tyres, because he's not putting that much pressure through them. He's not racing anybody particularly. David is some way behind, 14 seconds, and there is no great rush on.
Michael Schumacher said at the top of our show that he thought a lot of McLaren's advantage was their Bridgestone tires. Schumacher's Ferrari is on Goodyear, but he said it's not just that, also it's the car. We have some making up to do. We're a little down to the McLaren's on power, and we need some improvements in the chassis. Here's Villeneuve. Oh, excuse me. Here's Frentzen on pit road. Second stop of the day. Actually, isn't that his third stop? Didn't he come in right after the start to repair or replace the front wing?
He did indeed, yeah. They had to get the wing, and there's probably a lot of bits and pieces in there because he was on the grass when he spun. Ooh, just got out of the way there as he goes through.
Takagi and Nakano making stops.
That's the fastest you're ever going to accelerate today,
yes.
Mike, let me tell you. Winding and sliding out a bit wide there. His tyres, of course, are at 100 degrees, but they're going to run a lot hotter when he gets going. Look at that vibration coming back to the front with that steering.
Very bumpy in those braking zones. We'll take a pit stop on our Fox Sports Net coverage of the Spanish Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen leading teammate David Coulthard and Alexander Wirtz. So far this season, Mika Hakkinen 2 wins. Michael Schumacher 1, David Coulthard 1. As we come to Spain, Hakkinen looking to make it 3 of 5. Damon Hill has been off course in the Jordan, took a slide through the gravel trap, but kept his car under control and rejoined the race.
So we've seen both reasons as to why the gravel trap works. One is to stop them hitting the fences, the other one to let somebody slow down and get back on the road again. Wirtz here in third place, as we saw him go by Schumacher while Schumacher was in the pits.
Let's show you what happened to Damon Hill. Top of your screen, the right-hand side. There he goes.
Yes, he got lost out on that long right-hander, and he gets out there, keeps his foot in it, because it's very dry, fortunately. He didn't sink in and sort of lump it one straight in sideways. Still going around the outside. Actually not doing a bad lap out there. He's probably got a good time.
I'm told, Derek, the most important thing when you're in the gravel is not to spin your wheels. Kind of like driving in snow. You start spinning your wheels, you sink right in.
The problem is these cars only have 2 inches of ground clearance. And remember, there's that little wedge underneath the seat of that car underneath to make sure they don't wear it away. And of course that means that there ain't too much room between him and the gravel, so it'd soon wedge up underneath there. Barrichello in for one of the stops, lying in a very good position at 5th.
And the leader, Mika Hakkinen, is in as well, and one of the Saubers. That's Johnny Herbert, the blue car, just behind Barrichello.
That's a long stop for Barrichello. They seem to have long stops forward, Stuart. They've got to do something about this, because that'll...
Oh, what's this?
Oh, he's not stalled
left front, trouble on the left front.
And that was a long stop too. but he had plenty of time in hand. But that might be just what DC, David Coulthard, wants. It's given a bit of an incentive to perhaps wind in Häkkinen a bit. You see, this is where you can't afford to be too careful. Going along being a bit conservative, and suddenly you lose 3 seconds in a pit stop.
And Mika Häkkinen comes out right behind traffic. There's 2 cars ahead.
Fellow in the front holding the lollipop which says stop or go, a little bit cautious about something, and of course just his hesitancy is enough to cause you the time to lose 2 seconds.
Well, they had the time to lose. I guess it's better to be safe than sorry later.
Well, that's right. I mean, Coulthard is yet to go in for his stop. I just hope they don't make him have a long stop just to sort of balance it out in the teamwork that they do have at McLaren. But it might give David Coulthard that extra incentive to perhaps get on a little bit. He was inching in on Mika, so maybe it's not as bad. Villeneuve in for his stop.
5th place car on pit road.
Now it'll be interesting to see if he goes out ahead of Barrichello. Remember, Barrichello had a long stop. Villeneuve's had a second quicker stop. That's still not a very good stop. But let's see if he gets... There's Barrichello coming out of the turn up there. See him coming out of the last turn, turn 11. And meanwhile, in front of is David Coulthard coming in. Let's watch, see if Villeneuve gets out in front. But we're not going to. We're going to watch Coulthard.
2nd place car, the winner at Imola 2 weeks ago.
To have seen whether Villeneuve got out in front of Barrichello.
Yes.
We'll know in just a second or two.
Actually, Coulthard was the leader when he pitted. He picked up the lead from Häkkinen, and now Häkkinen should once again be back in the lead.
Oh, without a doubt. There's no doubt in that at all. But it'll be interesting to see where the position changed in 5th and 6th place. I mean, you talked to Jacques Villeneuve after this race, or as they talked to him after Imola, and he said he was absolutely on the limit the whole way. And then you suddenly find you get home and suddenly find you in 7th place after all that work. Wirtz having a fairly reasonable stop. Michael Schumacher, of course, would take 3rd place at this point, but of course Schumacher has yet to stop again too.
And Villeneuve is ahead of Barrichello. So he did come out ahead of Rubens with a long pit stop for the Stewart, put Villeneuve up a spot.
Right behind that picture there, I swear I saw Barrichello ahead of Barrichello ahead of Villeneuve on the road. As we look back up the pit straight, it looked just like there was a white followed by a red car.
Unless it was Takagi being overlapped.
Well, sometimes this telemetry stuff that we're looking at can also be a bit behind. Look at that little group there coming down. Going to be a bit of overtaking, blitzing going on at the end here. Look at poor old...
Oh, right in front of the McLaren.
I wonder where my man is. You know, that was Olivier Panis wondering, oh, well, never mind, just I've got my race to contend with as well as... Oh, that was a nice little overtake there by Häkkinen. Slips through on the inside. But he certainly didn't help Mika's cause when he gave a chop there on the main straight.
In the McLaren pits.
They all look very nervous. Is that Damon? No, that's Ralph out of the car, isn't it? No, it's Hill out. Oh dear, another problem for Jordan.
Damon Hill this season. This will be actually his 2nd retirement of the season.
Well, it's the engine this time. You can see the engine's obviously expired in a big way. They're having such problems with this car.
Hill was disqualified at Brazil, so he has only 2 8th-place finishes to show for his season. Yeah,
not at all good. But he was running quite well in this race too. But once the engine goes, that is it. They're not having at all. I mean, this team which has so much going for it in so many ways, but they just cannot get it together to finish the races.
Team owner Eddie Jordan was the most vocal about the FIA's decision to ban the X-Wings, and said in a statement they had spent 4 days of work, 200 man-hours, and 50,000 pounds, or some $80,000, to make up those wings to run 2 races. Michael Schumacher in 4th now, behind Häkkinen, Coulthard, and Wirtz, ahead of Barrichello and Villeneuve. Now shown 3rd, and now in the pits.
Schumacher coming into the pits probably means that Wirtz has slipped in without us seeing him for his pit stop. Look Look at that, see that reflector there? That's the aluminium sheet. You can see that's to deflect any fuel or any splashing that comes up and save it hitting that exhaust. Get going, Michael. Ooh, bit of wheel spin there as he goes out. Interesting, actually, that Häkkinen is only 6 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, and now 17 laps to go.
Here comes Wirtz. And Schumacher's going back into third place.
Very nice piece of driving there by Michael. Great bit of pit stop work, great pit crew. I wouldn't swear to it that Michael's actually ahead of Wirtz at this point. That behind him, I think, is one of the Saubers and also Pani in one of the Prosts. So I don't somehow think that is Wirtz. So maybe Wirtz is ahead, unless Wirtz is right behind that lot, but we can't catch him.
You're looking at cars out of the race. If you joined us late, Fisichella and Irvine had a big collision while battling for third place. Damon Hill just out with engine trouble. The lead gap has narrowed now to 4.8 seconds. Häkkinen to Coulthard. Coulthard having a good pit stop while Mika's was a bit leisurely. And that's made much of the difference. 4.8 seconds first to second.
But he's still working over. I mean, he's pulled out a second and a half in the last 2 laps, David has, on Mika. Different thing when they get together, of course, but you never know. Mika might have just a little glitch somewhere in there, or he's been told to short shift because maybe there is another problem with that gearbox on the car. Who knows? So we know it was supposedly what they call a counterfeit part, but it might be something else this time, and he's been very conservative because we've seen David eating into this lead all the way through for the last, what, 20 laps.
Well, as you said early in the show, if a team gets the idea that one driver is superior to the others, things start moving in his direction, and Coulthard is very anxious to prove that that's not the case.
Oh, look at...
Whoa!
Whoa, that was nasty.
That's Villeneuve trying to overtake Barrichello. Having no luck there.
It was a lovely go at it, though. Wirtz, in fact, is behind Michael Schumacher. Wirtz, Michael, oh, look, here we go again. He had everything locked up, it seemed. Oh, he's having another go. He's getting in this time. Boy, did he lock everything up coming down inside in there. Everything locked up. Barrichello, meanwhile, loses a position. That's a shame for Ford, but believe me. Is it? Oh, I'm sorry, that is Magnussen. Aren't we stupid?
No, we're just
plain stupid.
No. 12th place battle, Frentzen and Magnussen.
Oh.
Sure looked just like the other one.
Sure did look like the other. Dear, oh dear.
You know, except for the driver's helmets, there's very little
now you
to
can
tell.
see it. No, there's a puff of smoke out of the back of Villeneuve's car there as he goes into that corner. I feel very embarrassed about that just now. So much waiting for Villeneuve to make a move on Barrichello.
The only distinguishing marks between the Williams cars are the front wing struts. Villeneuve's are red and Frentzen's have a fluorescent yellow stripe on them, but that's so difficult to see except from a head-on angle. So,
well, I said
sorry for the mix-up, folks.
Yeah. We did get excited for a while, though, didn't we?
Yes.
You've got to admit that. Johnny Herbert really having a go here at Villeneuve, who is a long way behind Barrichello. 15 laps to go, but it could get exciting. Maybe Johnny will put a last final effort. Remember, Johnny Herbert is running the slightly softer Goodyear. And he's actually stood up remarkably. All smoke out of the back of that Sauber engine. Maybe things aren't as good as they had hoped. Remember, he had a broken exhaust, we felt just now. Sauber supposedly will be getting an updated Ferrari Petronas engine, as they call it, in the next couple of races, so maybe they'll get a bit more power out of it. Remember, they're meant to be running the same engine as the lead cars, but they've done tremendously well with this Sauber Petronas engine.
And it's nice to see Herbert back on form. Johnny Herbert this season has only one finish. That coming in Australia. Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard continue to leave Michael Schumacher, Alexander Wirtz, and Rubens Barrichello. Next up on Fox Sports Net, Formula One coverage. The Grand Prix of Monaco is in 2 weeks, May 24th. Check your local listings for the airtime on your Fox Sports Net affiliate. Michael Schumacher tries to repeat in Monaco and close in on the McLaren Mercedes. Domination of this season thus far. We're at the Grand Prix of Spain, the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor. As the signboard goes out for Mika Häkkinen, a 9.4-second lead, 46 seconds back to third place Schumacher.
And here is Mika Häkkinen trying to get at Johnny. Johnny lets him through with ease. Now he's going to go after Jacques Villeneuve, and Jacques no doubt will let him go through with ease. In fact, Häkkinen has upped the show a little bit, and he's picked up another 3 or 4 seconds on David Coulthard's, pulling away from David now, which of course is what he needed to do. This must be winding David up somewhat. But Johnny Herbert's still been chucking out a little bit of smoke at various points around the circuit. Let's just hope with 12 laps to go he can keep it going. Johnny has only finished 1 race this year. That was the 6th in Australia.
Not as much attrition here as we had at Imola 2 weeks ago. The 2 cars, Irvine and Fisichella, out in the crash.
Look at that McLaren. Sorry, I have to say,
sure.
Just look at that McLaren. It just drives around the middle of the road, keeping up with the car in front. Is quite uncanny. Look at him coming down there. He's looking to hoping that Jack will pull over for him, but he's not about to. Mika is certainly not going to take any chances, but he'll be losing like a second and a half a lap through this. You see, also, if he gets too close to Jacques in front, he has this problem. He is 1 minute 25 ahead after all, which is going to be 1 minute 26, a good lap time in a minute. But of course, he has the problem. If he gets too close, he will upset the balance of his car and, of course, wire a lot off those front tyres. He's going to pull out, going to have a look at Jack, but Jack is having none of it at this point. It'd be a pretty good position for, he's almost saying, go by me, Mika, go by me.
Almost, yes.
So he does. Yep. He goes by, but remember, Mika would be hurting his left front tyre if he didn't get by soon, and he's been trying to balance it out nicely. He hasn't really been behind too much.
Well, isn't it difficult to be in Villeneuve's position, because if he leaves Hakkinen too much room and too much time, does he risk losing that spot to Herbert?
Well, he did just about that. Herbert again had a puff of smoke. Maybe that was his tyres locking up, but early on I did think it was the motor. But look at Johnny. Now Johnny's going to go around the outside. No, Jack's blocked the inside. Whoa. Johnny again locks it up, nearly flies off. Looked like he's blocking up from the rear tyres there. But remember, he is on these softer tyres, and he could easily get flat spots if he doesn't watch out. He doesn't need to do that if he's going to capitalise on this. But look how Johnny isn't using all the road at all behind Jacques. Jacques having the most monumental drive to keep ahead of Herbert. And it would be great for Johnny to get by him, but I'd just love to see Jacques get a good result to boost his morale somewhat. He's still got his fuel cap flapping open. They didn't put any racer tape on it last time to cover it up, and nobody seems to be particularly bothered. See, Johnny just takes that tight, nice, neat line, but as he comes out, he actually loses at the front end of the car, and the turbulence behind means that he cannot get that close. And there's such, obviously, similarity between the engine power. They're both down on power on the lead cars, that they're both actually doing the same thing. Same power coming up, same power going down through the corner.
Ralf Schumacher struggling today in 11th. Peter Windsor dialed us in with him at the top of the day. Johnny Herbert going to have a good result for Sauber here. His teammate Jean Alesi battling truly for 9th place.
Well, he's come up a long way because he was lying like 17th at one stage. But as I say, look at these long radius corners. They're pulling something like 4G round there. Tremendous loading on the neck. It's very physical for these drivers, and obviously puts a lot of pressure on them to keep their head up. Nothing worse. Once your old head flops over, you have lost it.
Bit of happiness there in the McLaren pit as the next lap times come up on the board, and the gap between Hakkinen and Coulthard expands just a bit.
I would quite easily say that that is Mika Hakkinen's fiancée. He wears a wedding ring, but then the Swedish people often, or Finnish, Scandinavian people often do wear rings on their fingers to it look like a wedding ring, but in fact is just a sort of a commitment ring. See both these Fords running, or should I say both the Works Fords, both the Stewart Fords, is really refreshing.
Yes.
They both finished one race each this year, but certainly not in the position they're running at the moment, and it would be very, very satisfying to see them come home with a good result like they could well do here.
Out of the race, engine problems for Hill, Salo, and Denitz. The crash between Fisichella and Irvine.
Wouldn't Johnny love to get out of his slipstream? He's been there the whole 60-odd laps. He's been there the whole race. And I'm sure he's got dirt all over his visor. He can't see very well. There's more dirt, no doubt, coming out the back of that Mechachrome engine. There was at the beginning. All he gets is bits of rubber. Terrible smell of exhaust fumes, which is vile. It can make you really feel quite ill when you sit in somebody else's exhaust like that.
Sportsnet coverage of the Grand Prix of Spain. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor. The McLaren Mercedes team has run away from the field. Mika Hakkinen with a 6-second lead on teammate David Coulthard. 35 seconds up on Michael Schumacher in Ferrari. They are running in the same order in which they are in the World Championship standings.
Consider getting by them before the end of the race. That's a good shot at the tarmac there. We can see skid marks. But Mika, of course, has got to be very cautious with these two in front. They do have larger rear mirrors this year, but it doesn't mean to say they're going to operate them. And it also doesn't mean to say that they haven't vibrated into a situation that they cannot see behind them. And this does happen a lot. You can't just stretch out, or you can't just press a button to put them in the right place.
Here's Hakkinen closing on this group of 4. Now, what is the rule for the driver being overtaken?
There is no rule. Not rule as such. The answer is obviously you don't get. He'll be seeing a blue flag, which indicates that there is somebody. Oh, the guys in front will be seeing a blue flag, which indicates there is a faster car approaching, and therefore you should actually make way for him. But it doesn't mean to say that you should go off the road in doing so, or that you should take him off either.
Right.
And also, the guy in front does not want to lose any time, because he's about to show his team what a star he is by staying in 17th place.
Or in this case, 11th and 12th.
Yes. Look at him. Come on, that's it. Let him by Heinz Harold. Yes, he does. Good man. Thank you very much. But of course, Heinz Harold loses total contact with Schumacher in front.
It really cost him.
Yeah. Good old Rubens Barrichello doing a wonderful job there in 5th place. Just please stay together. They're saying, oh, look at that. Out goes Pani. Just didn't need that at that point. Right, 4 laps from the end. Of course, they're running Peugeot engines this year, which were in the Jordans last year, and they actually were more consistent last year. Here comes Pani as he comes in. Here he go, locks it up. Looks like something blew up. Oh, looks like there was a puff of smoke blew up at the same time.
He was the 8th place car, Derek, and looking to finish only his 2nd race of the season. He was 9th in Australia.
That's so disappointing, but so really, really disappointing for them.
All right, here's Hakkinen into the inside of Ralf Schumacher, and he makes the pass on the 10th place car. Here comes Frentzen, and it's not enough room. Oh, Schumacher
has got him very
slammed
close.
the door.
It's got him very close. But of course, as somebody from Renault said the other day when they were being approached by the media and said, but Renault aren't doing very well in the Williams this year. And they said, well, somebody also said there is our young Giancarlo Fisichella sitting there watching what's happening in front. Not at all a happy player today, knowing that he...
Just as you said, all that dirty air just threw the nose of the car aside.
Well, that's what it does. But I just must finish that bit about Renault. And Renault said, well, it's by having Prost having a miserable time, another French team, it's meant it's taken the pressure off Renault, who would have been getting a right slamming in the media for not getting good results. Mika looking down the inside there of Trulli. Can he go by? Yes, plenty of room. Thank you very much. So can you imagine what it must be like to sail past 4 guys, and those guys are giving their all, and probably equally as good in talent as Mika Hakkinen, but he has the machinery.
I'll tell you what it does, puts a big grin on Mika Hakkinen's face.
He doesn't grin very much. Very dry sense of humor, but what a character. I've just been reading a book about him, a small book written, but it is intriguing to learn about his history. And he, in those early days in karting, he was the Finnish karting champion, he was the Scandinavian karting champion before he came to be the Formula 4 champion and the Formula 3 champion of Europe. And he did terribly, terribly well. Went straight from Formula 3 to Formula 1. But in that time, he used to compete in karting against the likes of Michael Schumacher, even Heinz-Harald Frentzen he raced against as well in Vauxhall Lotus on the way up. So all these guys progressed en groupe to be great. But Mika did have that extra special flair about him, and he used to beat Michael Schumacher. So that's why he's so confident that he knows that he can beat Schumacher. I don't know that I'm as confident as he is, but certainly he is certainly a great talent.
Interested observer, NASCAR driver Johnny Benson, the Roush Ford driver, is here as a guest, I believe, of the Stewart team. He came over with the Grand Prix Tours group, and Benson just astonished at the technology in Formula 1 and having a great time during the off weekend for Winston Cup.
Mika Hakkinen, he must be just taking it so smoothly, keep it clean, just get to that finish line. A wonderful victory for him, elevate him into a nice lead in the World Championship, but my goodness me, right behind him, isn't that incredible to see Barrichello there doing so well. Vert's doing another splendid performance, and of course Michael Schumacher doing all that he can with the Ferrari. Even if he hadn't had his pit stop, it wouldn't for the penalty, it wouldn't have done him any good. He'd have still been in 3rd place. But you know, wonderful teamwork from Ferrari to get in there.
And Schumacher's batting 1,000 in Spain. Every time he has run the Spanish Grand Prix, he has finished in the points.
Yeah. There aren't many races that Schumacher's raced and hasn't finished in the points.
Checkered flag. Mika Hakkinen scores McLaren's 111th Formula One victory. And it's the 4th for Mika Hakkinen, 3rd of the season.
David Coulthard as well. Great drive for David, but David really needed to get himself together on that circuit. Super though, Ford. Stewart must be so excited to have that 5th place. Both cars, it appears, will have finished the race. Certainly Barry Kello has. Fantastic for Ford, Jackie Stewart and the whole team, because they really have the doldrums about them, talk of kicking at Alan Jenkins, their designer, and all sorts.
Schumacher completing his lap will finish 3rd again, will hold 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari will hold 2nd in the Constructors' Championship. Here's Schumacher across the checkered flag. And the 5th place finish by Barrichello will be the 2nd ever finish for Stewart as a constructor in the points. A big wave to a big crowd on hand here in Spain by Mika Hakkinen, winner of the Spanish Grand Prix. Fox Sports Net coverage of Michael Schumacher now has 2 wins, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, a 4th and a 6th in Spain. Alexander Wirtz, I keep saying continues to impress, but he does. A fine 4th place run. And Rubens Barrichello, what a bright spot in what has been a dismal season for Stewart. Jacques Villeneuve in the points. Johnny Herbert, Frentzen, Trulli, and Alesi slipped to 10th on the last lap in that 4-car battle. Ralf Schumacher, Jan Magnussen 12th, another good finish for Stewart. Takagi, Nakano, and Tuero 15th. First 3 finishers on the lead lap. Extends his lead from 3 points now to 7. Schumacher is now 5 points behind Coulthard instead of 3. Irvine holds on to 4th in the Drivers' Championship.
There's some of that Scandinavian sort of personality is now coming out. They're very droll about things in life generally, but here we have him pumped up. He just cannot quite believe it. He's probably quite emotionally overcome at the moment.
Hakkinen, Coulthard, Schumacher, your winners thus far. McLarens have owned every front row starting spot but 1. That was Schumacher in Argentina. Mika Hakkinen has led nearly twice as many laps as anyone else. And he's had fast lap 3 times, once for Schumacher and once for Alexander Wirtz.
The test track actually is Mugello, because Mugello is only 2 hours away.
We'll be in Monaco in 2 weeks' time, and then we'll be live with you in Canada and same-day coverage for the Grand Prix of France.
Very emotional moment there for Mika Hakkinen as national anthem's played. When you
with a lead like that and victory like that, you could say the victory was easy, but it's actually never easy. You all the time have to make sure about your concentration is right all the way through the race. You have to really be careful. Overtaking back Marquez was I would say very enjoyable, but also quite demanding. Because sometimes the situation and the time was not exactly ideal, but certainly it was interesting.
You seemed to make a good start, and then by lap 10 you had a lead of almost 10 seconds. How hard were you pushing at that point?
Quite hard.
Obviously, yeah, I just couldn't keep up with them at the start. I had a real difficult time in my first set of tyres, and I got more comfortable with each set towards the end. But you know, Mika really was at one with his car this weekend, and I wasn't able to keep pace. So congratulations to him.
It was probably the best you could get today, and it was a pretty hard task for you in the end.
Yeah, it started everything at the start, which didn't work out at all. I lost 2 places. Luckily, after the first pit stop, I gained them back. but same time I took a speeding in the pit lane. Don't know why, but for some reason the limiter wouldn't work, wouldn't engage, and I had to come in for an extra pit stop. But luckily the crew did a fantastic job to get me out in the right moment and just in front of Woods, so I could recover third position.
Joy congratulating Mika Hakkinen, winner of the Spanish Grand Prix. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net.